Welcome to the Sales SOS podcast, where we answer your sales distress calls. I'm your host, Liz Hyman, bringing the rescue boat to your sales challenges. In this ever-changing sales environment, it's easy for leaders to feel adrift. We're here to be the beacon guiding you to success. Each episode, I'm joined by top sales experts and practitioners who have navigated this waters and come out victorious. Together, we'll uncover the insights and strategies that will help you hit your sales targets and grow your business. So if you're ready to turn your sales distress into sales success, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi, I'm Liz Hyman, and this is the Sales SOS podcast. And today, I'm here with your only crew member, Mike Simmons, because everyone else is on vacation because it's July. And we're going to be talking about sales process. And right now, we've had a couple conversations. So if you've missed them, go back and listen to the earlier podcast. But now we're going to talk about how you align the CRM and the sales process. And I think this is where we see the biggest number of mistakes and chaos and problems. So we're gonna just dive in from where we were and just sort of talk about what's happening in these CRMs that is creating such chaos. And we've talked about some of these already in the earlier segments, but let's just start again. So we have to get the sales process and the CRM aligned. That's the first thing. What does that even mean, Mike? How do you?
Well, I mean, it gets to the stuff that Liz has shared in some of the other sessions and that we've been talking about here over the course of the last bit of time. It's having a definition, knowing what your stages are, naming them, having a definition associated with them, having some rules associated with what is required for exit criteria or movement into that next stage, getting through those gates. And I think the big challenge that ends up happening inside organizations in this alignment piece is it is super easy to just keep adding more into the CRM because there's these big data tables of stuff. So we could add a new field because somebody wants to report on it. And we can add another so somebody else wants to report on it. And we can add this and we can add that. And then all of a sudden what you do is you create this disjointed mess of Liz's favorite word, chaos, that happens inside an organization where suddenly the tool is no longer enabling the revenue team. It's no longer enabling the process. It's no longer enabling the ability to get data out. The tool's not working for us. We end up working for the tool. And that is the thing that drives me absolutely nuts when it comes to these CRM implementations. And a lot of it relates to complete lack of alignment around what our goals and objectives are of the business, what we want to be able to report on, and what the job to be done is of that specific tool.
So when we make everybody else's needs priority over the sales team. So if we start with the idea that the CRM is there to enable the sales team to do their work, that is the starting point. It wasn't created for accounting. It wasn't created for the product team. It wasn't created for the customer success team. It was created for the sales team. This whole notion of a CRM came out of the need for a sales team to do this work. And so if we remember that the core, the center is about the customer relationship. This is the customer relationship. And the salesperson and sales. If we start there, we can then say, okay, I understand that's the core most important objective is to help the sales team sell successfully. Now, the first thing we have to think about is what is the sales process? And so we start by, sometimes there are different sales processes. Sometimes we have a simple sale. It doesn't have this long sales process. There's only one person involved. Sometimes we have very complex deals. Sometimes we have, we might have different processes. But in general, we have one process for all of the products. And we're going to figure out how to document that process in the CRM so that the salesperson can do their job and everybody can understand what's going on. That's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. Now, right?
Yeah, basic. It's basic, simple stuff. This tool has a specific job to be done, and that's from a leadership perspective, it's to help us with forecasting. Right? I mean, like that's a big thing. If we can forecast accurately, we can get comfortable taking on additional risk by bringing on headcount that can help us with fulfillment, or turn on other investment things that can create more opportunities on the front end. But if we have good data, we can start to make effective decisions or informed decisions, that will help us operate the business. So that on the leadership side, so it serves a purpose there. On the sales rep side, on the individual contributor side, the same kind of thing. If we're going to enable them and empower them to operate their own business, let's give them a tool to manage and operate their own business. And this is where that customer relationship management database tool that came up has really helped organizations. But then all of a sudden you add in ops and service and marketing and all of these other things that get integrated into the system. And before you know it, it starts to turn into this like Gordian knot of stuff.
You create all these rules. You create these drop downs that have 100 choices. You add all these extra fields, and I think I told you this one before. I have a client that accounting would not let sales put a company into the CRM until they were approved they went through the process of being approved and able to purchase, right? Credit check and everything. That is not helping the sales team do their job.
No.
Right? So what are you putting in there? Are you giving the salespeople space to do their work? One of the areas where we didn't talk about this earlier, where I see the biggest confusion is, I have all this work to do at the top of the funnel, and I need a way to do that work. If I'm not going to create an opportunity until later in the process and it's already qualified, where am I doing all this top of the funnel work? Where am I tracking it? Who can see it? So I literally had a client who said, my sales team's not doing any top of the funnel work. They're just waiting around till we give them a deal. And I said, hey, tell me, you guys, to the sales team, tell me about the top of the funnel work that you're doing. And they all handed me spreadsheets.
Wow.
They were doing a tremendous amount of work. They all had spreadsheets. They were actively working, but there was no place to put this in the CRM. And I see this over and over again. There's this question about, when does something become a deal or an opportunity, and how else can it live in the funnel, in the CRM, not in the funnel, so that I can watch the deal stages or watch the life cycle stages change and manage my work. So there has to be a place for the salespeople to track the work that they're doing. And clearly, if upper management doesn't want to be upset at them, they have to be able to see that work. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the way CRMs are created now, that it's very hard to do that, to manage and track that top of the funnel work in a way that is practical. I don't want 10,000 things in my funnel because they're ideas that I have, but they need to be somewhere so I can remind myself to do the work.
I think we're finally going to get to a point where we kind of disagree on it today. And it's been a little bit. We've talked about a number of different things. We might disagree a little bit in language and vocabulary and some of those things, but functionally, from a jobs to be done perspective, we're really well aligned as it relates to all of this sales process stuff. On the technology side, I actually think CRMs have made it easier for folks to keep track of that type of work, especially when you integrate your CRM with tools like your email system. So whether through Gmail or Outlook or Exchange or whatever it is, however you're communicating with your customers, if you integrate that into your CRM and keep that information current at a contact level based on the integration, not where you have to go in and then send it to another address or you copy and paste it, which is what we used to do way back when. But you integrate those systems, then when you do the work in Gmail or on your phone, it just magically goes and shows up in the CRM. And some tool, and I'm a big HubSpot fan. I'm a HubSpot fan and a Salesforce fan. I've implemented.
So I just have to, this is one of the places where Mike and I disagree. The more I work it, I thought I loved HubSpot. Like I hated it, but I thought I loved it. And now I'm ready to pull my hair out again.
Yeah. So
I find it very difficult.
we need to have a conversation and go through your HubSpot instance, because the biggest
all
challenge
of
with
my
HubSpot,
different companies' HubSpot instances.
all of them, all the way across the board. And what ends up happening is people overcomplicate the HubSpot instance, and they try to make it do things that it's not supposed to. And the ones who are the worst at it are the freaking HubSpot implementers who were started. Thanks for rolling your eyes. Who started as marketers and then now are playing sales, and then they're starting to play success. And again, this gets me fired up because I see it happen. And they go in and they're like, oh, well, this is how you're going to build out your sales process, and this is what it's going to do. But they've never really sold anything in their lives, and they've not managed a sales team, but they're doing what HubSpot tells them to do and creating the dashboards that HubSpot tells them to do. And that's wrong. It doesn't help. It doesn't serve their customer. And there are going to be some people who are going to respond back to this and be like, Mike, you don't know what you're talking about. You've just not worked with the right HubSpot implementers. I can tell you over and over again, with each of the ones that I've worked with, there are parts of it that I have to take over. Now, I have serious control issues. So the reason why I maybe did
that, Mike, we do know that. But I will say that this is true with any implementers I've worked with. And, from NetSuite to Salesforce to HubSpot to Zoho, I've done all of them. And what I will tell you is the people who are implementing don't have a clue. They're tech people. They are not people who've ever done this process. And they have to be managed very, very carefully because they think that you know the answers. They think the company knows the answers to things they don't. And really, when you're going to implement a CRM, and I'm gonna put in a call out for me and Mike right here, is pay somebody to help you get it set up right. And I don't mean an implementer. I mean a strategist. Somebody needs to understand what you're trying to accomplish, what your stages should look like, what your fields need to be, not just what HubSpot says they should be and how it should look and what your report should be and all of that. That doesn't work.
It doesn't. And that's where things where people get really frustrated with it. And the thing that I like to do when it comes to these kind of implementations is make it as simple as possible, complex as necessary. Let's just start with the bare minimum of what we need to have in there. And to get back to that piece that you were talking about earlier, with tools like HubSpot and tools like Salesforce and Dynamics, you can integrate in your communication and your other workflow type tools. So your calendar is integrated, your email is integrated. You might even have your a caller integrated so that when you call people out of the CRM, it shoots to your phone and you're able to call people directly. You integrate other tools out there like a Gong or a Chorus.
Right. And meeting, a lot of like HubSpot now has a new meeting tool. Zoho has a meeting tool. Integrate what you can with your CRM so that the sales work that is being done is all happening in one place.
And this is where you get the technology to work for you, not you work for the technology. And too often what ends up happening is people do it. It's like, I remember way back in the day where I kept, and Liz, you might have done the same kind of thing. Like both of us are not as young as we once were, right? So like, I would keep client notes in the Outlook, the contact card that I had in Outlook. And I would just keep it there so that I had a rolling thing that I could go take a look at. I would keep information in a spreadsheet so that I knew what deals I was working on and where things were and what next step. And I wouldn't put it into the CRM because it just didn't work with my workflow. Like there are different ways that we would work through things. Some people had this thing called the Rolodex way back when, and on the back of business cards, it might have had notes about the thing that you're going to follow up on. One of the cool things about these tools that are out there today is a tool like HubSpot has an app where you can take a picture of a business card and it will load the contact information into the CRM immediately. So there are ways that these tools really can help people.
Right. And
the question to ask is, what are we really trying to do with the tool? Yeah.
But this idea about contact, there's lots of ways to get the right contact information. One is HubSpot, Zoho, Salesforce. When you're in your email, if you're actually in email instead of in the CRM, you can pull that information right out of the email and put it into the CRM. There are tools that LinkedIn doesn't like that enable you to pull the information right out of LinkedIn and put it into your CRM. So what tools make it easier for the salesperson to use the CRM? No salesperson ever wanted to sit there and type in the address and the phone number and all of that stuff. They don't want to do it. No. What's the easiest way to do it? Use a tool like I don't know. I can't think of one. There's a zillion of them that have all of the data for all of the different people in the world out there.
Like you're thinking, I mean, in some of these ones, I was a huge fan of them way back when, and I mean, they're now ZoomInfo. Discover.org was one of the ones that I loved because we would sell into technology companies, and we'd have just this amazing layout of who the people were, org charts, where they are inside organizations. It's been a while since I've worked with them, but there are a number of these tools that are out there, whether it's an Apollo or Cognizant is a really good one in the UK. Like there are a number of these tools that are out there. There are also some resources that are readily available in other places where you can go get some information. Be careful. Every time you add another tool to the toolbox, you create complexity. Make sure it's earned the right to be in the toolbox, that it's earned its job. And sometimes over time, you end up having to fire tools, and that's okay too. Like you can fire a tool because it no longer has earned its right. It no longer serves a purpose. And I think we've talked about sports. We've talked about cooking. We've talked about cleaning a house, and now we're going to get into gardening. Sometimes you have to prune those tools as you go through.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And some of the worst complaints that salespeople have is I have to go into 16 different tools to do my job.
Yeah. Right.
I have to go here, and then I have to do this, and then I have to go into the accounting, and I have to forget it. If you want your sales team to follow the sales process, make everything available to them in the CRM. You want them to write a proposal? Let it find a tool that lets them do it in the CRM. You want them to book an appointment? Give them the tool right there. You want them to send an email? You want them to dial? It's not that expensive to make it possible for a salesperson to do their job in the CRM. There might be times they have to go out. They might have to design something in a design tool that they can't pull up in the CRM. But you would be amazed how many things you can pull up right in the CRM while you're working to do the work. Every time they leave the CRM, you create a gap in information.
And there are going to be times where you have to have those multiple tools. Like we've got one, and I've got an instance where there's so much technical debt tied with a tool that allows us to quote, where all of the quoting happens in that tool, and we have to integrate it into the CRM. So you have to spend time in both of those. That's okay. Communicate to the team, here's why we're doing it this way, and then build out your plan to either sunset one of those tools if you can, or come up with a better way to help with the workflow of those tools. Like the integration across many of these tools is really, really good when you bring on a good integration partner and you're using current versions of those tools. There are some of us out there using older versions of tools because we've not yet made the transition to a hosted version, as an example. And so know the game that you're playing, know the problem that you're looking to solve, ask those questions, and then start to determine where do you want to invest time, energy, and resource to help with that workflow. Because the better you make that experience for your revenue team, the better your data is going to be, and the better decisions you're going to be able to make as a leadership team inside your organization. So,
well, and the better your return on investment in each of those people. Right? If it takes me, I have to go here, I have to go there, I have to go there, I have to come back every single time I move from one app to another, the possibility of being distracted increases. Right. And I mean, I don't know if you're like me, if I have to go back to my email to find something, 30 minutes later, I now remember what I was doing. Right. So
it's like we were talking about earlier, the whole lose your keys kind of thing, right? Like you have a process, you work the process. as you add more things to it and it deviates from the process, you create potential risk inside the business. So be really careful about what you're adding in there to create that risk.
And make sure things work. One of my clients said,
we're supposed to test.
There's always that testing thing. One of my clients, the salespeople and the support team would be putting data in every 15 minutes because the accounting system is old. Every 15 minutes it refreshed and they lost whatever they were in the middle of doing. That's the kind of stuff that, one, salespeople won't stick around for. And two, what a waste of time. Fix it. Do not make people live with stuff like that.
And when you go through and you test it, and you'll make mistakes. It's okay. So let people know, look, we're going to roll this out and it's going to be new and we're going to learn and we're going to make mistakes. And as soon as we learn, we're going to adjust, or we're going to determine these are some of the things we have to deal with in the short term, but we're going to communicate effectively. I had an instance where the integration wasn't working really well. So one of the people on the team just realized that if you had the tool work in an offline mode, they could manually do whatever they wanted to in that offline mode. Before you know it, I had an entire team of people working offline and wondered, how come the information's not syncing back and forth? It's because we found a workaround. And you're kind of like, oh no, the workaround created a gap between the data in one system and the other system. So even though we had an integration, it wasn't integrated anymore. We shake our heads and we smile. I smile because I know, I get it. I understand. I've been in those roles where someone puts in a required field and you just don't know the answer. So you check the box, or someone comes up with a workaround. And the reality is if I unplug it from the internet, I'm going to be able to get work done on my own, and I'll just deal with it. I'll get the thing I need to get done now and then deal with it later. If you're not listening to the signals from your team, you're going to create this snowball of technical debt and bad data that at some point in time, you're going to have to rework. So pay attention, ask those questions, work through the workflow stuff. 100%, Liz.
And every time a salesperson says, I'll get back to that, putting that in or doing that piece or whatever, you have essentially created a break in the sales process where something can go wrong.
Yes, you have. Amen.
All right. Are we ready to wrap this up there then? I
think we have had an awesome day together. So everybody, thanks for being on vacation. Thanks for giving me Liz alone for the day. So I think we covered, if we think about it, what did we cover? We covered sales process. We covered jobs of the process. We covered important things to include. We covered mistakes that are made. We talked a bit about jobs and influence that happen across other groups, and we've talked about technology. I think we've had a day.
We've had a day. All right. Hey everybody. Thanks for joining us. Mike, thanks for being a good sport and doing this with me alone. This was great. And we will be back next Friday for LinkedIn Live, and just keep watching our podcast or listening to our podcast wherever podcasts are found.
Where should people go to find you if they have questions?
Oh, they can always find me on LinkedIn, Liz Hyman, or you can go to regarding-sales.com and you can find all kinds of stuff there, articles and tools and stuff. And Mike, you're at?
findmycatalyst.com is the best place to go to find everything. I am on LinkedIn. I'm one of the original people out there. Mike Simmons on LinkedIn, which is kind of funny to have a name like mine and actually have that in the URL. But LinkedIn or findmycatalyst.com, those are the best places.
Excellent. All right, everybody, happy selling and have a great day.
And that's a wrap of this episode of the Sales SOS podcast. A huge thank you to our experts for throwing us a lifeline with their insights. We hope today's episode has equipped you to navigate the sales seas with confidence. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Sales SOS podcast on your favorite platform. If you have questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to explore, join us live on LinkedIn every second Friday, or share your questions on YouTube or LinkedIn. Until next time, keep sailing towards those sales goals. I'm Liz Hyman, Your captain here at the Sales SOS podcast saying smooth sailing and successful selling.